development. And when I'm talking about a development, it could be a housing estate, it could be this development here, it could be a school, it could be a hospital, something like that. How do you make sure that you're getting a quality in development that is? And when we talk about quality of green infrastructure, we're thinking of it in terms of ecosystem services. What are the multiple benefits that you can get within a development, apart from, say, a permeable pavement, tarmac, or trees in the development, or amenity grassland? How do you persuade a developer to put something a bit more ambitious into a development? So at Scottish Wildlife Trust, our approach to conservation is an ecosystem approach. A lot of conservation organisations have traditionally worked with protecting species and looking after habitats. We have 120 reserves in Scotland. We're Saving Scotland's Red Squirrel. We've been involved in a pilot project about reintroducing the beaver, but we're also concerned with ecosystems and what happens beyond the boundary of our reserves and the health of ecosystems. And I think one of the failings in the Scottish biodiversity strategy and why biodiversity has declined is because a lot of people have been working in the first two pillars and not considering the third pillar, which is most important. Biodiversity doesn't know the bounds of our protected sites, and we need to do more and go beyond our sites to look after biodiversity. So just to illustrate this, this is our reserve Boresinch and Duddingston Loch. It's a triple SI, there's plenty of species on that site, you can go and visit it. Our species don't know the boundary of our reserve, and actually we need to be concerned with what happens beyond that, within the urban environment, because that will influence what is in our site, and our site can influence the experiences of people out with our reserve. We call that an ecosystem approach. And a part of demonstrating this three-pillar approach, we've got living landscape projects, and which Green Surgery are involved in. Mike Smith is sitting there. Botanic Gardens, Living Green Space Trust, ourselves, and City of Edinburgh Council. And if you notice in one of the ambitions, I don't mention ecosystem services at all in this, because most people, it's too jargony for most people. So we say we manage land in a multifunctional way, and what we're meaning by that is really it's delivering more ecosystem services, because we want to transform our landscapes to make them to do more to create healthier ecosystems, so they give more benefits to people. And as part of this, we've got 19 projects, and one of them is to work with a volume house builder to get better green infrastructure and development. But the thing is, if you go to a house builder and say, I want you to put in green infrastructure because it's going to deliver these, I want you to do carbon sequestration, I want you to do this, that and the other, they're going to say, well, what do you want? What is it you actually want? So we decided to think about developing a tool to give them some certainty about what they could put into a development, and also something that would be easy to understand. We're also working as part of, we're a key player in the Scottish Forum on Natural Capital, and Michael Elm is at the back of the room. Put your hand up, Michael. If anybody wants to know more about the Scottish Forum on Natural Capital, which is, there's going to be the World Forum on Natural Capital, which is in November, and what came out of the World Forum 2 years ago was the development of the Scottish Forum on Natural Capital, and one of the strands of their work is on green infrastructure. Now, I started with this slide because actually biodiversity is fundamental to healthy ecosystems, to deliver ecosystem services. Now, of course, from our point of view, we want to see, our sort of aim is to protect conservation and wildlife for future generations to enjoy. So, but it's fair to say that, I put a lot of charismatic species there to get you interested. I do that in talks in case you're bored with what I'm saying. You can look at the pictures. That happens at member centres anyway. So policy is not the most exciting subject for some people. But you need biodiversity to deliver these services. And actually, at the beginning of the sessions, we didn't really talk about species being important to ecosystems. So I just thought I'd bring it back to that. But the other thing as well is, you know, if we talk about ecosystem services and benefits, it's absolutely essential that children get exposed at a very early level. You know, there's plenty of research out there about health and well-being, but for healthy childhood development, they need those experiences, and that's translated later in life. The nice experiences they experience when they're young means that they're more likely to be amenable to wanting a forest or demanding this, that or other, or wanting nature on the doorstep as an adult because they've been exposed as children. This is the meadows. Anybody sitting there in the meadows won't be thinking of all the ecosystem service value that that park is delivering. And actually the council, the value of the meadows it's valued at £1. That's council policy. All parks are valued at £1. But if you actually put a monetary value on what that was worth, and actually if you said to people, actually that's going to be a housing development, we're going to change it, or it's going to be a retail park, everybody would be horrified, and they'd all have their own reasons why, and it would never happen because it's, you know, wouldn't be council policy or anything, but you know, not all areas of land are sacrosanct. So policy drivers. We've talked a lot about, you know, that there's lots of things out there from a European level, and I haven't put them all in here. You know, these apply to Scotland. I haven't put in the land use strategy. I haven't put in the national ecosystem assessment. These drivers are all there to try and see that you get high quality green infrastructure within particular development designs within an area. And the reason why they're there is because the green infrastructure driver from Europe is because of the benefits that come from high quality green infrastructure delivering ecosystem services to support the economy. So you'd think that in development you would get high quality green infrastructure, but you don't actually see it in every single development. And I don't think it's just that. So the guidance is there, and local authorities produce this guidance in terms of planning policy. And you know, these things, planning applications come in and it goes through committees and it gets voted on. But why don't we see actual high quality green infrastructure in every development? You know, in a school or you know, whatever you look at, it should have it, and it's not being translated on the ground. So something's been lost in the system. So that was why we looked to develop this tool. Because what we want to see, obviously, is this sort of thing. And most of these examples aren't taken from Scotland or the UK. But we want to see more of them, because once we get high quality development, if that becomes a norm, people will demand it, and house builders will want to build it. Because if we talk about green infrastructure to house builders, and you say, could you plant a lot of trees, could you use that as, well, no, I could put another house in there. And who's going to manage it? You know, there's all these things about who's going to manage it afterwards. Apart from amenity grassland, but there's a price in that, in cutting grass. But a lot of this takes a bit more management. Who takes ownership of this? Because, you know, these are all questions that need to be answered. So what we've done is we're in the process of developing. It's not finished yet, but we're sounding it out. I've talked to the heads of planners Scotland about this. I spoke yesterday to the Scottish Government about it. I want to speak to SEPA about it. And I've talked to the Centre of Scotland Green Network about this. So in the process of developing it, it might be that ESCom can help in the development of it, and you'll see why in a minute. It comes out, there was a tool already available, and has anybody seen that grabs thing? Yeah, somebody's seen it, right. It comes out of a tool that was developed in Europe. It had European funding, and I wasn't going to reinvent the wheel, but I thought it could be applicable to Scotland. It's been used in Malmo, it's been used in Chicago, it's been used in Seattle, some places in England have used it. And I thought, well, you know, we could maybe try and use it here in Scotland. And I spoke to the programme manager about it. She's absolutely delighted if we could try and get it to work. And what it's trying to do is it's quantifying the green infrastructure to, and this is Seattle, to get high quality green infrastructure and development. And all it does, it's quite simple, and the simplicity means that planners understand it, and developers understand it, and landscape architects understand it. So it's the total area within the development footprint of whatever we're talking about here. You look at the total area of the green infrastructure and the blue infrastructure divided by the surface area of the whole development. But the green and blue aspects are weighted depending on the ecosystem service value of what they deliver. So this is a master plan of Polnoon, and basically what you would do there is you do it in GIS. Obviously you would take all the green and the grey, and then you'd feed it into that, and then you'd come up with a ratio. So the weighting factor is based on ecosystem services, and we've played around a little bit with some of these figures. These I've taken from what was used in Malmo, and also what was used in Germany and what was used in Seattle, because they've already used these figures. And the Germans have been applying this since about 1994, something like that. They've written a few papers on it. But what we need to do is test it in master plans to see, and actually when I talk to planners about this, they say, well, how do you get, so why is permeable paving 0.3 and immediate grasslands 0.4, and you know, how do you get each of those figures? And it's difficult to quantify. You can justify them in terms of, well, this is delivering this type of ecosystem service, this is only delivering one, or a sealed surface isn't delivering any. But that's some work that still needs to be done, and we're going to play around with it actually in looking at in real developments, and look at, say, developments that have worked or that people like, and see what the ratio comes out at in those types of development. So still work to be done there. So this is an example from Germany. In the current situation, they called it the biotope area factor, which I thought would never work here, so I just thought I'd use it the green infrastructure ratio, which sounds a little bit simple. So the current situation, you can see on the left there, the red and the grey is just all a sealed surface. That's the building, the red, and the green infrastructure ratio comes out at 0.06. And there was a requirement that the municipality wanted it higher, they wanted it 0.3. So the developer had to go back and see how to do that. So in one example, they put a green roof on and put some green surfaces on and made the court more permeable. And then on the other one, they didn't put the green roof on, but they put in some green, horizontal greening on the ground, did something with that. And by both examples, they came out with a 0.3. And I think one of the things is it allows flexibility in the development. So as long as they're getting to what you want with the development, then it's not too prescriptive. So this is...
Maggie, can you wrap it up?
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. This is a development in Helsinki, and it just shows that could have been a meaty grassland, but it's not. Okay, so those were the benefits that it gives. That's another site of a car park. That's been done because the naturalisation, because of the evapotranspiration from the natural surfaces. Context, you need an evidence base really. Why should you put it in? It might be for all of those reasons. In Berlin, they've actually set it statutory that in particular developments they have to achieve those ratios. I worked the example at Liverpool High School. We did one, just analysed it. That ratio came out 0.3. That was because it had a sports pitch. It could have been tarmac, it could be anything, but it achieved that ratio. There's lots of applications for it, which we're still sort of exploring. It can be retrofitted. You can analyse what's already there. You can do ecosystem service, opportunity mapping, valuation, that type of thing. And why is it relevant? This is going to be developed on that big area there. That's the sort of development that's going to happen. let's see some good green infrastructure in that development, because it's not going to happen without a tool like this. And that's it, thank you.